Hey guys, how you doing? This is Paul from Breaking Chains. Tell you a quick story. The name of today's video is On the Wings of an Eagle. And the story starts back in Los Angeles, where I was born and raised, in the Men's Central Jail, which I had been to, Men's Central Lockups at LA County Twin Towers, and which I had been to many, many times, more times than I can count. Um, and like I said, I've been in addiction for over 30 years, and I've been clean and sober now for 11 years and 4 months, somewhere around in there. And so I'm back in this holding cell, getting ready to go to court. 2 weeks before this holding cell, I will tell you, I went to court and was getting ready to be sentenced. My wife's in the courtroom; she's crying. I know I'm going to prison. She knows I'm going to prison. The judge knows I'm going to prison, and the judge says, "I'm going to send you back to Central, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with you." And my first inclination is that I need to send you because you're not going to get this. And so, anyways, so I go back to the Men's Central lockup. And 2 weeks later, I end up in this holding cell, and I'm in there with this South Sider gangbanger. He's covered in tats, and he's covered in tattoos, and he's got them all over his face, and he's South Side, and so for some reason, through the years and everything that I'd been through, I really didn't think that there was a God, and if there was a God, this God of all love that people talk about, that he didn't love me, or he forgot about me. And so I really wasn't much of a godly man, and when I was, I did it for show. In other words, it wasn't real. And I don't believe that I ever really got on my knees without wanting something in return, if that makes sense. I don't think it was real, in other words. So I don't ever remember being on my knees before, genuinely. And in this lockup holding cell, I fell to my knees. And in the street world, jail world, it's okay if you're doing it like around other Christians and everything, but in that place where I was at right there, it really wasn't a good idea to be doing that, especially if they were going to send me to prison. But for some reason, I fell to my knees in this holding cell, and out loud, I cried out to God, and I said, "God, if you're real, I need you to reveal yourself to me. I need to know that you're real. I need to know that you love me." And that was it. I got up, started pacing the cell, and this homeboy says, "Hey, will you pray for me?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really a praying man. I don't even know if this is all real." And that was it. And I went to court and ended up. I'm going to spare you all the details of that story, which is a really cool story. But I ended up not getting sent to prison, and I ended up going to a very hardcore intensive outpatient program, and if I violated one time, so much as jaywalked, I was going to prison, and that was the judge's stipulation. That it was a very hard stipulation that anything that I did wrong, I was going to fail this, and she knew I was going to fail it, but I didn't. Years later, I would write a book, Breaking Chains: Hope for Addicts and Their Families, and it would go to #1 on Amazon's bestseller list for 3 weeks straight. And 4 months after the release, 4 to 6 months after the release of the book, somebody in Arkansas had read this book, my book. And anyways, the drug court out there, so basically Arkansas wanted to fly me out there. The state of Arkansas wanted to fly me out there under grant money, and have me speak to hundreds of people at several different venues across the state. And I'd never been on a plane before, never been out of LA. At this time, I believe I just moved to Oregon. And so I was really excited. I was really nervous. Didn't know what I was going to really say. And so anyways, I'm on this plane. Oh, I forgot the most important part of the story. So as I'm in this jail cell and I'm challenging God basically to reveal himself to me, that I needed to know that he loved me, I heard this still voice, which I'd heard many times afterwards. I had a 2.5-year-old boy and a 6-month-old boy. I was going to prison for a long time, and whatever the reason was that brought me to my knees, I would hear this voice after challenging God, and it said, "Paul, I am going to set you on the wings of an eagle." And so years later, I would be flying on this plane to Arkansas, and I was above the clouds, and I'm looking down at all these clouds. You can't really see the bottom, but the ground, but bits and pieces. And I hear the pilot say, in 15 minutes we'll be at Arkansas International Airport, whatever it is. I don't even remember the name of the airport, but we'll be there in 15 minutes. We're beginning descent. And all of a sudden you can hear the jets, and they're descending, and I start going, and I'm in these clouds, right? And for a first-time flyer, it was pretty amazing that I was going through these clouds, and the next thing you know, I could see all of Arkansas. And it was green and beautiful mountains, and there's these little cars that look like ants, and it was just the most amazing thing that I ever seen. And during that whole descent through the clouds, I remembered years later in that jail cell that God said, "I will put you on the wings of an eagle." And I didn't know it was scripture at that time. It's in Exodus, I believe, Exodus 19. I'm not sure, but I think it's Exodus 19. I wasn't a big fan of the Old Testament anyway. At that, I'd always read the New Testament through the years, and so I wasn't familiar that would really be scripture until this whole ordeal in the airplane. And so I go into Arkansas and I speak to hundreds of people, but I think one venue was like 400 people, but I realized that God, at that moment that I descended from the clouds, that God has kept his promise, that he actually, in all actuality, set me on the wings of an eagle to go do his work. And so he knew ahead of time, that years later, well, even prior to then, but that I would be, in fact, on the wings of an eagle. I thought it was metaphoric, in a sense it was, but it was real. What he was saying was real. I was truly, in fact, as I was descending from those clouds, on the wings of an eagle, and I began crying and weeping in the airplane. This lady's looking at me, this old lady, and she kind of scoots over and says, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and I kind of tell her the story just a little bit, and she starts crying, I'm crying, everybody's crying, and it was amazing time. And since then, I would travel all over the United States on the wings of an eagle, and speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people. And this coming Wednesday, I'll actually be flying out to Michigan, Bad Axe. Yes, it's a place, Bad Axe, Michigan, and a few surrounding areas. That I'll be speaking at a bunch of venues there. And tomorrow, Wednesday morning, I'll actually be in Portland, Oregon, and I'll be shooting a video from Portland, Oregon. So you're not going to want to miss that one. And that one's going to be called My Lighthouse. Very good video. But the reason I'm sharing this with you, if you're in a place in your life, regardless of what it is, then you're just not sure if God is real and if he even loves you. I'm here to tell you that he does, because it's evident in my life. And I think that if you challenge him, a lot of people would say don't do it. I say do it. I'm that kind of person. I'm going to challenge God, and I challenged him that day, and he revealed himself to me, and in a powerful way, and has continued to reveal himself to me, and I know that he can reveal himself to you. So if you are a loved one of somebody who's struggling, or you're somebody who's struggling, please hit the share button, tag them in this video, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, because you are not going to want to miss the video that I will be shooting in Portland on Wednesday. In Portland, Oregon, My Lighthouse. It's going to be a powerful video. I promise you will not be disappointed. And subscribe, hit notifications so you get that video. And I will see you in Portland, Oregon on Wednesday. Yes, God truly, in fact, did set me on the wings of an eagle, and I've been on the wings of an eagle ever since. Peace. This is Paul from Breaking Chains.